Natural disaster, an event occurring from natural causes, and can result in catastrophic losses. Natural disasters can be devastating to any community. Examples of natural disaster: flood, tornado, earthquake, hurricane, wildfire, drought. Drought can result in lower river and reservoir levels, reduced agricultural yield, reduced food sources for wildlife and livestock, increased threat of wildfire, reduced availability of clean water, loss of income and economic stability, loss of livestock, famine, and loss of human life. For humans, drought can have an economic impact, from losses of livestock and agriculture to loss of business and individual income, from loss of real estate from wildfires to increasing cost of available water. Drought is the costliest natural disaster. At any given time, on average, 12% of the United States is experiencing drought. Drought costs the United States $6 to $8 billion every year. The effects of drought can last for years after the rains have returned. Because the beginning, end, and severity of drought are difficult to determine, drought is often referred to as a creeping phenomenon, a term coined by I.R. Tannehill. Drought is often not recognized until water has become scarce. Poor agricultural practices and misuse of available water supplies intensify the effects of drought. In fact, land use practices can worsen an existing drought or actually lead to drought conditions. There are several types of drought: meteorological, having to do with lack of rain over an extended period of time; hydrological regards surface and groundwater levels; agricultural drought is loss of crops due to poor soil management; socioeconomic drought is characterized by water uses and human needs. Again, the words of I.R. Tannehill, quote, "We welcome the first clear day after a rainy spell. Rainless days continue for a time, and we are pleased to have a long spell of such fine weather. It keeps on, and we are a little worried." It keeps on, and we're a little worried. A few days more, and we are really in trouble. The first rainless day in a spell of fine weather contributes as much to the drought as the last, but no one knows how serious it will be until the last dry day is gone and the rains have come again. End quote. Planning and preparedness for drought is essential and should include all levels of government and all stakeholders. Stakeholders are those whose livelihoods depend on reliable water supplies. Everybody. The Drought Resilience Partnership is composed of 7 United States federal agencies working together to provide drought research, drought planning tools, a drought early warning system, and to help communities mitigate drought. This partnership maintains a central information website, the U.S. Drought Portal. For the most part, drought preparedness occurs at regional, state, or local levels. In Texas, several state agencies are involved in drought mitigation. The Texas State Drought Preparedness Council, or DPC, provides mandatory guidelines for Texas regions to follow for drought mitigation. In April 2014, the DPC published the Drought Annex. The annex focuses on proactive monitoring and assessment to minimize the impacts of drought. The Texas Water Development Board maintains the State Water Plan, which addresses long-term water management during drought. Drought planning and preparedness in Texas primarily revolves around water supply. The Texas Commission on Environmental Quality monitors water flow and the right to draw of surface waters. Individual water systems are tasked to determine when to begin water use restrictions and enforcement. Basically, in Texas, monitoring and maintaining water supply during drought falls on individual water boards, river authorities, and public water systems. The regulations are vastly different from region to region, county to county, and city to city. Texas utilizes water from both surface and groundwater sources. Groundwater from confined aquifers provides about 60% of the water used in Texas. Surface water in Texas primarily comes from reservoirs, which capture and store water from spring flow and flood. The idea is to always have water available. Texas water districts have incredibly different regulations regarding water use when supplies are low. Municipalities and water districts use stage systems to regulate water use based on reservoir and aquifer levels. For some areas of Texas, Stage 1 restrictions are voluntary, others are mandatory. As stages of restrictions increase, penalties can be applied based on water use. At Stage 4, Houston has a water use cap of 4,000 gallons a month before penalties are implemented. Dallas's penalties begin at Stage 2, when monthly water use exceeds 15,000 gallons. Texas primarily plans and prepares for hydrological drought only. The Texas economy depends on its agricultural and ranching industries. Yet, the research for this presentation could find no official nor governmental protocol regarding land use or soil protection to mitigate drought. There are several academic and private entities that teach and promote sustainable land use for agriculture, ranching, and development. However, these groups can only offer suggestions for best management practices. Following them is strictly voluntary.